Welcome to the Constitutional or the Christian Constitutional Conservative again. Today, instead of looking at the left-wing media, or at least maybe I'll do this Trump one, our country is a mess, and then I'll do either MSNBC or CNN, one of those two, and maybe we'll do the response to what he says here. So let me go ahead and get this started, and we'll listen to Trump, and I'll give you my thoughts.
What's happening to our country, whether it's the borders or the elections or kinds of things like this, where the DOJ has become a weapon for the Democrats, an absolute weapon. And it seems that every time my polls, we're leading by a lot. And we're leading by a lot in a place called Iowa, a lot.
I mean, that's true. He is leading by a lot.
Not only with the Republicans, but we're leading against Biden by a tremendous amount. They haven't seen anything like it. And they feel, I guess, they want to try and demean and diminish and frighten people, but they don't frighten us because we're going to make America great again. That's all there is. We're going to make our country, Sean, is a mess. You know it better than anybody. I mean, frankly, your reporting is incredible.
I'll be honest. I have never been more fearful of the state of this country than I am right now.
Yeah.
Fearful about the economy.
If you're a Christian constitutional conservative, let me know what you think about Sean Hannity.
Economy, foreign policy, our future, our kids, our grandkids. I've never been.
And even if you're not, tell me what you think of Sean Hannity.
This way.
Well, you look at Biden with these leaders, and they're at the top of their game, and they're looking at each other like they don't even believe what's happening. Our country is no longer respected. Think of it. 3 years ago, energy independent, powerful military that was totally rebuilt. The president announced 3 days ago, which he should never have said, probably classified information, that we have no ammunition. Now, what do you think China says when they hear we have no ammunition? No, it's a very, very sad thing. If you look at the worst border in history, we had the best border in history. We had 3 years ago the best border we've ever had. We built hundreds of miles of wall. We got Mexico free of charge. They say about Mexico. Mexico gave us billions of dollars worth of soldiers for years, 28,000 soldiers guarding our border. We had the best numbers we've ever had. Today we have, I think, the worst numbers in the world, because I don't think there's any country in the world that would stand for what's happening to us, with millions of people flowing in from, by the way, mental institutions, insane asylums. They don't like me using those names, insane asylums. But we have very bad, very sick people, very ill people coming into our country, prisons and jails all over the world. And it's not the 4 countries that we sort of consider neighbors. It's all over. Last week, we had 129 countries, representatives of people that came into our country illegally. And we're losing our country, and we're losing the spirit of our country. But I will tell you, make America great again, and MAGA, and America first, and all of these things that we talk about. There's never been more spirit. Look at this crowd. There's never been more spirit than we have right now. 2024. 2024 is the most important election that we've ever had. And I used to say it with 2016, and I meant it 100%. But we're going into almost a communistic state, and I think maybe we're even there. When you look at what they're doing with, you could call it fascist, you could call it Marxist, you could call it communist. What they're doing, like with the Department of Justice, they've totally weaponized it. It's weaponized like we've never had this before. It's not only me. Catholics, you see what's happening? Parents at school boards, they're being harassed by the Justice Department, by the FBI. Nobody's ever seen what's happening right now. And we have a guy, the head of this country. It's probably not him, it's people around him. They have people that are vicious and smart and have horrible ideas for our country. So it's really the people, in my opinion, because I don't think this guy can put together 2 sentences. I watched him last night. He's almost incapable of talking. And we have.
I'm not sure he knows today's Tuesday, sir.
Well, we have a problem. We have the potential of a war beyond the war with Russia and Ukraine, and that would have never happened before. By the way, if I were president, that would have never happened. If I were president, Ukraine and Russia.
I want to get to that. You know, I came here today and I watched the 2 hours with Mark Levin. I watched your hour with Tucker. I watched your hour with Brett Baer. You did 2 hours with me. I watched you on Maria. I watched your interviews, and on fake news CNN. I watched that too.
Well, that was a good one. That was a good one. They had a town hall.
That was a Trump
They
classic.
ended up firing the head of CNN and they got the highest ratings in 11 years, and they fired. It's supposed to be the opposite.
By the way, you might want to start a
Honestly, that is funny that they fired him just because they had him on, man. The left is crazy, man. The left is crazy.
show, and at the end of every show, say to somebody, "You're fired." That would work, right?
You're fired.
All right.
I still can't believe that they fired the guy because, oh my Lord.
But I wanted to talk about the problems and the solutions. In other words, identify the problems and the solutions.
Okay.
We cannot ignore today's events. Today, when you put out your Truth Social post. And by that, I want to talk about what is clearly now what the Judiciary Committee under Jim Jordan is looking into, whether or not our FBI and our Department of Justice have been weaponized and politicized. And I have two headlines here. You know, FBI tipped off Biden team, Secret Service, about plan to interview Hunter, according to a supervisory agent who retired. Tomorrow, there will be another IRS whistleblower, just like this man, Mr. Chapley, who came out and said, no, he should have been indicted on felony charges, and I've been doing this, meaning Hunter Biden. Then I can take you back, and you know that I covered this every single night, and my show was vindicated on the issue of Trump-Russia collusion that never occurred. The Durham report corroborated it, the Horowitz report. It's a long way of me asking this very simple, basic question. And that is, if you look at Hillary Clinton and the way she was treated, no prosecutor would prosecute, 33,000 subpoenaed emails deleted, devices destroyed. Then her dirty dossier. And that dossier was used to get 4 FISA warrants. And then you look at the FBI in 2019. They had Hunter Biden's laptop in December of 2019. They verified it in March of 2020. And yet FBI agents in the months leading up to that election were meeting with big tech companies, telling them, according to Yoel Roth, the former Twitter integrity site head, telling them that it might be about Joe or Hunter. That laptop story got censored. The American people were denied the truth about what would be a bombshell story.
And by the way, it still is censored because they haven't really gotten into the meat with all of the great reporting done, and there has been some great reporting done. Generally speaking, the press is fake. It's fake, and it's just horrible, actually. But there's still been some great reporters and great reporting done, and you are at the lead. You've been incredible. But when you look, but Sean, when you look at that, they haven't even gotten to the bottom of the laptop. They don't want to put the pictures in. They don't want to. They have pictures in there that anybody else, they go away for 10 years. What happened to Hunter is he got a traffic ticket. Other people are being sentenced to many years in jail for doing much less. He got a traffic ticket. The only good thing is the people know it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Now, Jim Jordan and Jamie Comer, these guys are doing a great job. But the problem is you find out the crime, but nothing happens with it. Instead, they go after you.
Like, for example, Hillary Clinton's home wasn't raided.
Yeah.
Joe Biden's garage wasn't raided. The UPenn Center wasn't raided. The University of Delaware wasn't raided. His home, beach home, I don't know how he affords a beach home on a senator's salary, that wasn't raided. Hunter Biden is being protected, obviously. Cocaine in the White House, 10-day investigation. They literally interviewed nobody. Okay, investigation's over. Would that have happened in your White House?
Well, listen to this. Even you mentioned the beach home. Well, the beach home had all these documents in it, right? It was by the Corvette. They're on the floor, classified documents.
No, that's not the beach home. The beach home was another place they found.
No, this is also the beach home. And they had the Corvette, where they had the Corvette. Yeah. And a tremendous amount of payment was made for that home by somebody to Joe Biden. And it was a big story for about one day, and then you don't hear about it anymore. It's incredible. But when you look at the documents all over the place, whatever happened to that one? They go after me on documents, and I have the Presidential Records Act, which is a big deal. And the Presidential Records Act is an act Thank you.
Why weren't their
they know
homes
better
raided?
than anybody else.
Why weren't their homes raided?
Well, let me just tell you, I'm protected by Presidential Records Act, and they come up with this obscure, crazy theory, a madman theory. This guy is a deranged prosecutor who's had tremendous failures all over the place. He's a nasty, horrible human being. They come after me. Now, Biden has many thousands. I mean, he's got 2,000, almost 2,000 boxes of documents. They can't get to him because the college or whatever that has him doesn't want to give him. And he probably told the college, but more important.
So why isn't there a raid? If he hasn't given them back, put it in the comments. Or if the university hasn't turned them in, put them in the comments. If they have turned it in, put it in the comments. Because if they haven't turned it in, why hasn't the FBI raided that college yet?
Importantly, China gives millions of dollars to UPenn. That's where he has some. He's got them all over the place. And maybe worst of all, he's got documents in Chinatown. In Chinatown, many, many documents, boxes of documents. You don't ever hear about this. All you hear about is Trump. And I'm totally covered by the Presidential Records Act and also by the Clinton socks case. You know what that is? That's where Clinton took out tapes in his socks and he put them in his drawer. And they sued him just on a very civil basis. And he ended up winning the lawsuit. And the judge said he can have whatever he wants. And that's called the Presidential Records Act.
What about Sandy Berger shoving documents down his pants?
Oh, there are many instances of it. But especially when you're president, and Joe Biden wasn't president. You're only covered by the Presidential Records Act if you're president. Joe Biden wasn't president. In fact, Joe Biden was senator for many years, and they've got a lot of classified documents when he was senator, and other Democrat senators can't even believe the fact that he has these documents. They said, I watched Dick Durbin. Here's another beauty. I watched Dick Durbin saying, I can't believe that he took them. He couldn't even believe it. So it's a two-tier system, but it's worse than that. It's a very corrupt system.
Okay, so my question to you is, when you see that Hillary had top secret classified information and the conclusion of Jim Comey, no prosecutor would ever prosecute, 33,000 subpoenaed emails deleted, devices destroyed. Okay, then we have the FBI in early October of 2016 sent agents over the pond to meet with Christopher Steele. They offered him $1 million to...
Here's my thing about Sean Hannity. He's boring, number one. Number two, he's talking about stuff that he's talked about for years now. We don't need a repeat. There's so many questions he could have asked Trump about what he's going to do and things, and that's not what I'm getting. Instead, we're spending 17 minutes on and Hannity is bringing up stuff from the Steele dossier. At least Trump is bringing stuff from something closer to date.
To verify any part of that dossier.
To get Trump.
Okay? They couldn't verify it. Then, in late October, even though it wasn't verified, they used that, according to Andrew McCabe, Deputy FBI Director, without that dirty dossier, they would never have gotten those FISA warrants approved. Now, they knew that they couldn't verify it. The Dora report confirmed none of it was true. And yet, they would use that as a backdoor to spy on your campaign and your presidency.
Yep.
Is that a dual system of justice?
And the whole thing with FISA was horrible. But you know, one thing we did that was so great, I fired Comey very early. And a lot of people said, oh, you should have done it. Well, you know, they're given a term. They're given a term very early. Not immediately early, but very early in a few months. And I got rid of this guy. And by doing that, it was like you threw a rock at a hornet's nest. The whole thing collapsed. You saw the love letters back and forth with the different people talking about the insurance policy. You know what the insurance policy, that was against me.
That was how to
If she, for some reason, loses, darling, we have an insurance policy. The insurance policy is they'll get me out. One way or the other, they'll get me out. Because you know what? This is 30, 35 years of being put into government. And you get there. And initially, I didn't know people in Washington. I was there 17 times in my entire life. I never stayed over before this. All of a sudden, I'm president of the United States. I relate, and we had tremendous people also. Don't forget, biggest tax cuts in history, biggest regulation cuts in history, rebuilt our military, took out ISIS, took out Soleimani, took out al-Baghdadi, the two biggest terrorists in the world. I mean, what we did was incredible. Strongest border we've ever.
These crossers, either they're the independent section or they're the Democrat section.
Had. Everything was good. No inflation. Best economy in history. We did all of this stuff. We had tremendous people. Look, they made a lot of money.
Yeah.
No, sorry. We had tremendous people. But we also had some. You rely on others. You rely on people that you knew. You rely on other politicians to give you answers. And you find out that they are rhinos or they gave you bad advice. So we had.
I'll say this, because of that tax cut benefiting my employer, during Trump's administration, I went from $10 to $15 an hour at a job I worked. That's a $5 increase during his administration. Under Obama, I went from $8 to $10. That's two. And I was there for a full term of his. So I went from like 7.45 to $10.
Some that weren't good. But when you think, Comey had a term. He had many years left in that term. I said, this guy's bad news. I realized it very early in the administration. I fired him. And it was wild. That's when we found out all of the corruption. Had I not fired Comey, you wouldn't know any of the things that you were talking about.
You think they
right
would have
now.
destroyed you?
Well, they were trying to take me out. Yeah, they were trying to take me out. I mean, it was like a coup. It was like a coup. Had I not, it's very interesting. Some people that are very smart, that you know very well, said when I did it, oh, that was a mistake. That was a mistake. You're going to cause. Now they say it was the greatest instinctual move they've ever seen because Comey was a very bad guy. And Comey led that group of thugs in there. And they were doing a number. It's very dishonest. It's years and years of putting in people, Democrats and rhinos and other people, but putting them into office. And we got rid of a lot of them, but we're going to get rid of a lot more, because you have some bad people.
One more question on this. In the past,
Here's my thing. Trump didn't get rid of Andrew McCabe. And he put in Andrew McCabe. So this is where perhaps Trump will learn. And if he gets to be president, he'll remove as many more of the swamp that he can. But he put in Andrew McCabe. That's all I gotta say. He put in Andrew McCabe, all right? And whoever not the DOJ director, but he did put in Andrew McCabe, so.
I think it's been a mistake. I'm like you. I think we should have paper ballots, same-day voting, make Election Day a national holiday, and have partisan observers in every precinct watching the voting and then watching the vote counting. And when the polls close, declare a winner, game over.
Right.
But that's not the system we have. Republicans have been reluctant and resistant towards early voting, mail-in voting, and they've also been resistant towards legal ballot harvesting, which Democrats have mastered, which is why they can hide in their basement, run hundreds of millions of dollars in ads, and never answer a press question or shake a hand or kiss a baby or do a town hall. My question is, do you now encourage and embrace early and voting by mail, and legal ballot harvesting?
I do, but I also have to say something else, because the one thing a lot of people,
But this is important,
including
you do.
don't talk about, they also create phony ballots. And that's a real problem. That's my opinion. But they create a lot of phony ballots.
Has your mind shifted? In other words, I think if Republicans start out Election Day down 200, 300, 500,000 votes, that becomes nearly impossible to catch up with.
For some reason, Republicans always wanted to go out on Tuesday and they wanted to vote. And I respect that. I think it's great. And it would be great if we could get back to one day and all the things that you said with one thing else.
I agree with you.
With voter ID. With voter ID. Because the Democrats don't want
signature
voter
verification.
How about this? They don't want voter ID because they want to cheat. They want to cheat. They don't want voter ID. Even the Democrats, regular Democrat people want voter ID, but the leaders don't because they can't cheat.
I'm going to say this. The Democrats have a history since the 1860s of creating ballots. A history. There's a joke that goes around that that says that it's interesting that all the dead people vote Democrat. They may have voted Republican when they were alive, but when they died, they vote Democrat. In the 1860s, in 1864, when Lincoln was going to be reelected, the Democrats were going to graveyards and filling out ballots and ballots from dead soldiers. All right. So yeah, their party has a history of cheating,
The one thing we have to be very
ballot
careful of is
cheating.
phony ballots, Sean. Everything you say is great, but they create ballots. That's my opinion, and that's the opinion of a lot of people.
Will you encourage your voters, based on the system we have, to go along with the system of early voting and voting by mail? Because
I will.
I think if you don't, it's a big mistake.
No. I will, but those ballots get lost also, Sean. You know, they send them in and all of a sudden they're gone. Those ballots get lost also. The answer is I will because you would like it. But you know what? Can I be honest?
For me, okay.
But
I got to take a break.
But Sean, a lot of bad things happen to those ballots also. They're sent in early and all of a sudden, where are they? Look, we have very corrupt elections. We have no borders. If you don't have borders and if you don't have good elections, you don't have a country. And that's where we are. But I'm okay with it.
By the end of this year, we'll probably have, under Joe Biden, nearly 8 million illegal immigrants since he's been president. Quick break. Hey, Sean.
Yeah, Sean Hannity, you're a coward. That's what you are. So he doesn't want to talk about the ballots. Retarded. Consti Christian constitutional conservatives aren't cowards like these fools. All right? We call it like it is. And listen, here's what I say. And YouTube now lets us talk about the stolen election of 2020. Listen, I don't know if it was stolen or not. And the reason why I don't know is because no evidence was allowed to be presented. Based on standing, the judges refused to let Trump's team go to the ballots and verify them. They refused. So who knows what was going on? Numbers switched. There's memes of out there or pictures out there of CNN showing one number, Trump ahead with one number, and then all of a sudden, after commercial break, they're showing a lower number for Trump. There's all kinds of shenanigans that have half the country saying, that's weird. And this all could have been resolved if these judges, instead of being cowards, would have said, okay, go ahead, check, check. And if the the mainstream media would have said, okay, in order to clear out the doubts of half the country, go ahead, Trump team, go look at the ballots. But no, they obstructed. They rejected it based on standing, not on evidence, on standing. People say, oh, they rejected it based on the evidence. How can you decide on something if there is no evidence? Trump's team didn't have any evidence because the evidence was locked up. The evidence is the ballots. That's the evidence. And those were already locked up and put away, stored. And Trump's team was trying to say, hey, we want a trial. We want to be able to look at the evidence, the ballots. But they were denied based on standing, not based on evidence. So, it could have all been smooth. Half the country would have been able to be on board if the evidence would have been allowed to be presented, but it wasn't. Anyway, that's all I have for tonight with Trump. We'll see you in the next video. Take care. Have a good night if I don't see you again.